Welcome to Tailgate Talk. Ritter and Tasker live in Canada at Ballards Black Island, along with Gary, who runs Ballards here. We've been talking about this trip for it seems like forever of doing this. Unfortunately, Wag's unable to attend with us, and, well, he's missing all the fun, and I should say has missed all of the fun already so far in Canada. But you had a lot of questions, Eric, as we got into things. So, this whole show, by the way, was pretty much always, it's just going to be all about what we've been through this week, fishing in Canada, what to expect when you come to a place like Ballards, what's so great about coming to a place like Ballards Black Island, and why Canada's, to me, one of the best places to fish. It's, to me, such an underrated, I mean, Gary, you've known me for quite a few years. I'm a huge smallmouth guy. I've said from day one I stepped foot on this island, this Lake of the Woods, is the most underrated smallmouth fishery that I've ever fished.
I would say so. I mean, I hear of places in the States where, they catch some smallmouth, but I think probably what tells me it's the real deal is during the month of June when we get so many people here from Florida, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, New York. All they want to do is just catch smallies, all day long. And if it weren't the case, they wouldn't be coming, that far to get here. And
for me, a kid that grew up in Green Bay, fishing Sturgeon Bay, in that to want to come here, I think that speaks volumes for it. And I think Canada's got a lot. I mean, from Thousand Islands, the whole area there, Lake Erie is another great smallmouth fishery. But this, to me, is just in and out because you've got smallmouth, you've got giant walleyes, like everything you could ever want to fish. And it's such a diverse fishery, I feel. Like I say, like Lake of the Woods and the Mississippi River, the two places that I would put on the map that are just like, you can travel 30 minutes in any direction and have almost a different fishery.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate for up here. I mean, and the fish, the patterns are changing the whole summer long, and it's just, I think you can find fish just about anywhere on this. And we talked about that today. It seemed like every time we stopped someplace, we caught something. There's always fish seemingly under the boat, no matter where you're at or on the shoreline. But, you don't have to go far, and, depths change, structure changes, fishing patterns change from one direction of the lake to the next. But, for the most part, it's pretty resilient all the time.
All right, again, if you want info at all about where we are, and again, if you're following on our socials, On the Tailgate, you've seen pictures of anything we've done throughout the week. It's blackisland.com or Ballards Black Island. You simply Google it and get there. Tasker, this is your first time that you've been up here.
E-Train.
That's right. He's got the new
E-Train was on fire this week.
In Fuego. We taught him how to fish that crayfish tube, and that was, I think that was a deal breaker right there.
Many terms for that this week. We'll just call it the crayfish tube.
Certain terms for that are not allowed on the FM dial that we can talk about. But just fishing a crayfish tube was your first. But how would you describe your experience of coming to a place like Ballards Black Island? Like, set it up of because I could talk about it and I could try and sell it off of what to expect or what it's like. But you being a first timer, I want to hear your first thoughts.
Well, the first thing that I'll say is I just itched my nose was you're going to smell like fish for the entire time that you're here, because you will always be around fish. You're always going to be catching fish, and it doesn't matter if you shower or not. Ritter's smelling his fishing gloves right now. But what I thought was really cool was, obviously you, myself, and Brad, one of our buddies, we drove up here. So we had quite the experience getting here, but once we got here, we got picked up from the mainland. And for me, working with Ballards for a number of years now, I've seen the pictures on the website. It was everything that I had kind of pictured, but you get here and everything is taken care of right away. So when we first got here, my first question to you was, are we fishing tonight? And we grabbed something to eat. We met everybody. We got settled in our room, and we just were able to get out on a boat. And I feel like that's like a VIP thing that Gary's okay with Ritter doing.
A question.
But it was not normal. But we wanted to get out, and we wanted to try and fish.
I'm still trying to figure out if Gary likes me being on the island or hates me. Because there's one of two ways that could go. Like, I'm very independent and can do things, but also I'm needy and want a ton of things because I'm very specific on how I want to do things.
You're good in the chase boat. I'll give you that. You're very good. You're adequate in the chase boat.
Adequate. Well, it went from good to adequate.
Well, even though you were trailing quite a ways behind, that wasn't your fault.
Chase boat, he gives me
one-third of the horsepower.
Yeah, he gives me a boat with a 60 horse and puts, twice the weight in it. Well, he's got the 175 and a 20-foot that with trim tabs.
We managed. Yeah.
I enjoy that part of it just because it's nice to have another boat along with you, because you actually can spread out a little bit, cover some different things, and it at times makes it easier to find fish quicker than it does if, say, you're by yourself and you just have 2 people in the boat with you. So it is kind of nice to have a chase boat along during the day, and it makes it fun too.
So what I was going to say is, so I noticed that one of your guides, Ruben, he was tethering the boats together.
Right, we do
Ruben
that.
Ruben had a great day today. Is that something you're going to change in the future?
Well, I mean, I've done it in the past, but I felt like part of that is when you can get on that anchor and jigathon bite, with the spot lock, that's when you can just saddle up, hook the 2 boats together, and just sit there and catch fish. And we didn't quite get to that stage today. I think, that one spot right before lunch where we were there for probably at least an hour or maybe a little bit longer, and we were catching fish pretty steady.
Yeah.
That's probably one of those places where we could have done the same thing. But for sure, we do a fair amount of that in the spring and the fall when you're fishing the points or the channels and you're literally just anchored, spot locked, and you don't move. You might sit there for 2.5, 3 hours in one place, and so then you can have the chase boat just hook up and go that route.
But you're pulling fish out consistently,
right?
So it makes sense to stay.
You can heckle each other as you go.
All right, I want to ride it back to make sure everyone can picture what this. So a lot of times how this will work, especially here, is everyone's here, the island's full. You get assigned up, and it's usually 2 people in the boat with a guide, and another 2 people in a follow boat that goes with. So each guide has 2 people in his boat, and then there's another boat that follows him with 2 other people that are in there. So this happens having you, Tasker, my buddy Brad. The 3 of us were always just in a boat together. So if we're following, I was just following and taking you guys. So there's 3 of us in the boat. But that's a lot of times how it works. So it's able to have less guides, cover water, and help people. So you're never on your own. It's not like, if you come to Ballards Black Island that you're going to be like, I'm coming here, and yes, it says it's all inclusive. So you get your meals covered, your lodging, all that. It's all inclusive of the price of it. But the fact that, a lot of times you're with, or especially on our trip anyway, you have a guide with the follow boat. And that's a really great way to do Canada, I think, because if you don't know much about fishing or you feel not comfortable, you have that help all the time. And that's, they say, being tethered up. It was you can, as a guide, I look at that and going, well, it's great because I can service 4 to 5, 6 people all close and not have to track down people and yell at people. Gary, you had to yell at me all the time because I just want to stray off on my own.
Well, you're just out running around doing your own thing. But the easiest way to explain that is you coordinate your arrival time, you show up, and you fish.
Yeah.
You really don't need to do anything else. They will take care of making sure that you have bait on your boat, rods on your boat, that you're hooked, that you're set up, and everything is taken care of. And when you get back at the end of the day, you put your fish cooler with your guide, and they will clean fish for you. They will take care of everything. I mean, you and I would like to do that. We wouldn't mind doing that. But what's nice is that for the average person, and we'll probably get into this in the next segment, is you and I are very different fishermen. We both love to fish. You love to fish, and I enjoy fishing. So for us to be able to come back and just have everything taken care of for us, it's so nice because we can go back, we can crack a beer, we can just enjoy our night and sit out and hear the waves crashing.
I feel guilty that I'm not cleaning my own fish and everyone else's fish. I'm used to that being my I feel that's my role. I feel guilty when I'm not.
Yeah. But it is truly the all-inclusive experience of showing up and not having it to do anything once you actually get here.
Yeah.
Meals are prepared. Everything is taken care of for you. And you just really show up and catch fish. They put you on the fish, and you just have to catch them.
That's what I say all the time. That's the best way to describe it. Is exactly that. It's just you book into the trip, and you show up and catch fish. And I think that everyone here has been just absolutely going crazy over the fish we're catching. And, part of that I always make a part of the trip that I host, this one, is trying to make it, everyone talks and hangs out and does a thing. And that's why every night at dinner I give out the angler of the day. I make these, cheesy little trophies, but there's a trophy for the day and, a little something that goes with it. But it's less about a dumb little trophy and more just to get people to talk and open up and hey, this is the day I had, or to think about those things. And I
talk
think
about the Grand Slam,
right?
They had today.
Bringing that camaraderie, and that's what the outdoors is all about, is camaraderie with each other.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll take a quick break. We're going to swing back around and talk a bit more into this, and I want to touch base and just it's been bonkers the last couple of years. with tourism and everything like that. I want to get a little look into that from you, Gary. So we'll be back. More tailgate talk coming up next.
Hey, bow season is quickly approaching. Don't procrastinate buying a bow or getting yours tuned up. Do what I did and get to Buck Rub Archery today. They are your locally owned and operated bow hunting and crossbow authority. Just off I-94 in Pewaukee, they've got 18 acres of archery fun with multiple 3D courses and the largest selection of bows, crossbows, and archery equipment. You can even test any bow in stock before you buy it. I'm so happy I found them. In fact, my wife has gotten into archery, and the awesome staff at Buck Rub helped her get set up with a perfect bow. Stop in and see what I'm talking about off I-94 on Silvernail Road, or look them up at buckrubarchery.com.
And welcome back to Tailgate Talk, brought to you by Buck Rub Outfitters. You can check them out, buckrubarchery.com, located off our Silvernail Road in Pewaukee with bow season coming up. Tasker, you're not excited at all, are you?
No. Remember I told you that once we docked our boat, I was done with fishing season.
Done.
You're on to bow season.
Done.
Done.
To the big game.
E-Train is going to the woods.
Yeah.
E-Train out.
Yeah.
E-Train out.
It's Ritter and Tasker. Wags out this week. The other voice you're hearing is Gary of Ballards Black Island, which is where we are this week. Been fishing and having a blast in Canada. It's kind of like a trip we've been talking about for a long time. I feel like it's been stretched out because this originally was booked and planned out to happen in 2020. And then, well, COVID hit, and that was put on hold. And then it was maybe going to happen in 2021, and then it stretched out and again was put on hold, and we finally got here. I've been here a few years previous to this. So, like, I'm now coming here. I was on a 3-year break of coming up here and doing this and hosting this trip, and it's probably a highlight of, like, every year for me. So we've talked about, like, I do, like, a tropical trip, too, with my other station show thing that I do, and we go somewhere, like, we're going to Mexico this coming year. This, to me, is more my speed. This is my element. This is my thing. I could fish for like 2 weeks straight, nonstop, just in and out every single day. I absolutely love it. And the whole time that this last couple of years has been going on, we've talked about it on this show. E-Train knows it, Gary, but I have genuinely felt for you and everyone else involved in the tourism and more so the outdoor tourism realm here and everything you guys have had to endure. As far as occupancy for this year, you know, as we go forward, we're what, 50%, would you say?
I think we're doing a little better than that. I think we're probably going to end up somewhere around 70%. So
Yes.
I think, but overall, when I've talked to my friends that both from Canadian Customs and U.S. Customs, both sides have said that they're running at about 50%. As far as traffic counts of what the pre-pandemic numbers were at. So, yeah, the tourism is definitely down, and it's going to be a rebuild. It'll be a process, and but I think for the most part everybody's committed to hanging in there, and we were just finally thankful to get back here after being closed for 2 years. Very thankful to all of our loyal people that hung with us and said, yeah, we're going to be back. And so for us, yeah, I think for being closed for 2 years and now finally reopened and to say that we're running at maybe 70% is probably a pretty good number.
You just mentioned the people, like everyone here. I've seen everyone that I've also seen in the past, and that's what's great to see people continuously stick back here and be, because that honestly, like, I'm not blowing smoke, and I never would blow smoke. You've got a great operation and great people that work here to just keep this place running. I mean, the server, the food cooking, the cleaning, the guides you have. I mean, from Steve to Ruben, like, those guys are awesome, and they know the lake so well. And I mean, obviously yourself.
Yeah, we love being out here, obviously. I mean, fishing is what we do. And for some of us, we do it year round, through the ice in the wintertime. But, like I say, it's just a matter of, being persistent and just having your mind made up that, we're going to get things back up to where they were in 2019, which was, really a peak for us and I think for a lot of our neighbors in the area also. Business was good and a lot of people were here fishing, and I think it'll come around again. It's just going to take some time, but with the international travel right now, things are just a little bit different, and it doesn't matter if you're, wanting to go to Canada or if you're trying to go to Central America or wherever it might be. I mean, there's just, certain things you have to do now to be able to travel, and once you do those things, then you're good to go. And for one, I think Ontario, if anything, I mean, I know we were closed for 2 years, but kudos to them for that CAN app. I think that was a good thing.
Absolutely.
If anything, it's really expedited the time at the border because, You basically pull in and you show them your passport. They already have all your pre-registration info in front of them. There are very few questions, and it's basically just have a good time, and thanks for coming to Canada.
Again, being a person that's traveled to multiple countries, and even since the pandemic, I said immediately when that app was a thing, I was like, why is it Mexico and Dominican? Like, why do they all do this? Like, it is so much easier to just put everything into an app, and it's all set, rocking and rolling, exactly as you said. Let me see your passports. Goes, your arrive can set. You're okay. Everybody's good to go. What do you have for liquor, or are you bringing live bait? And off you go.
They were very concerned about live bait, but besides that, I mean, it was such a breeze though, because we were able to get through. And I even said this when we were going through customs, that I was sitting in the back, and Brad's truck, our buddy Brad, has tinted windows in the back. So I was like, I feel like I need to either roll the window down or like peek my head into the front. But there was zero concern about us getting through. We had our passports. Everything was linked through that Arrive Can app, and it was such a breeze. It was so fast. We were fortunate that there was nobody around us, but by the time we got through, there were a couple people, like 4 or 5 cars behind us, and it was so quick. I mean, that was super nice to have that. So they've got to be able to expand that to other countries, because
it was really
so quick.
It's hard to tell where it will go from here. I mean, but still, even for me, it just seems to make sense, even regardless of the pandemic.
Yeah.
That even if
it's
you're
easy.
just going to travel out of the country, just pre-register and go, and boom, then it's done. So we'll see what happens. I know they've had a few glitches with the system with people that are using it more regularly, than our guests. But for the most part, it's worked out well. Absolutely, the people at the Rainy River Port have been doing a great job, and we super appreciate, them helping our customers, get through the border with relative ease. So it's been good.
Yeah. Do we have to bleep that out to give away our secret of how we get through?
Oh, no, my recommendation...
International Falls. Just go through International Falls.
No, do not go through International Falls. If you are coming to Ballards Black Island, which is the only place you should be coming to fish Lake of the Woods in Ontario, is go through that Rainy River or Baudette crossing, because it is kind of like, hi, how you doing? Can you give me a high five? Welcome to Canada. Or, have a rip, eh? Like that to me, like that's the
and take your picture with the big walleye.
Yeah, whereas International Falls is a little, it's a busier crossing. So anytime you go through a busier crossing, and that's, you mentioned like the ease of it. Again, even before pandemic, traveling to all these other countries I've traveled to, you got to fill up paperwork on a plane, or like or when you get to an airport, like just to do it all ahead of an app was the most brilliant, awesome thing that's ever been done. I was super, super happy about that. So yes, kudos to Canada for that. And it just goes to show that like you can travel and get here pretty simply, pretty easily. So like do not like hesitate or hold out in any way, shape, or form of next year booking yourself a trip to come fish in Canada, because it has been a stellar 3 days so far here and what's happened, and strongly encourage you to do it. Again, if you want to look up Gary and all the info for Black Island, just search up Ballards Black Island, go to blackisland.com. They also have a winter resort there in Baudette, which you guys, I mean, ice fishing wise, if you guys, how do you feel, looking back at pandemic stuff, did the ice fishing pick up through that?
Yeah, everything did on the Minnesota side of the lake, especially the summer traffic. Obviously, when Canada was closed for 2 years and no one could get in, we saw a big influx of people on the Minnesota side of the lake. And just the fact that more in-state people in Minnesota were traveling in Minnesota, which was a first in a long time, where we were seeing a lot of families, mom, dad, the kids, grandma, grandpa, that sort of thing. And so for 2 years, we had a lot of new customers. Normally on the Minnesota side, we're only running about maybe a 25% resident occupancy with Minnesota people on fishing on the Minnesota side of the lake. But the last 2 years prior to this year, it was over 50%. So it was a big increase of Minnesota fishermen, that would normally be going to Canada. But now things have kind of leveled out again, now that we're kind of moving forward. So, but it's been decent on both sides.
That's
just
awesome.
a different game over there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a walleye factory. It's more like Lake Erie. It's a big, wide open basin. They estimate the walleye population on Big Traverse Bay at about 10 million fish. And that's what you do every day when you go out in the charters, is you just go out and pound walleyes all day.
Good stuff. So I want to touch base on a little bit more of the experience on what it was like here this week. Tasker's got a long list of questions for you, Gary.
I've been jotting things down. I just can't wait to talk
Wonderful.
about it.
Big trip this year, Ballards Black Island. It's myself, Sean Ritter. You can follow me on socials at The Real Ritter. At Wisco Bow Hunting is Eric Tasker. Wags is out this week as a show as a whole at On the Tailgate. If you got questions at all about Canadian fishing, feel free to send it there, hit us up at all, because we can help you out and point you in the right direction. And that direction we're pointing to is Gary Moeller, GM, the man of Ballards Black Island here in Canada, where we've been saying. So thank you again for having us, by the way. It's been an awesome time.
We look forward to it. I look at the group that was here this week. I hope we can get everybody back together, get the band back together again next year, and add a few more people. It was a good mix.
This was a really, really good group and a lot of fun. And I will say, like, even Kurt, so Kurt and Cheryl, a couple, they've been coming with me every single time I've been here, and even they've done a year when I wasn't here. Kurt right away came up to me, like, this, was it yesterday? Or, like, it was even the first night. He was like, so you doing this again next year? Because Cheryl and I are ready to book. We're ready to go right now. And I'm like, I don't know yet. We'll see, but...
The question is E-Train going to bump Wags? I mean, we don't know what kind of stick that guy has. He's not here.
I mean, Wags was a pitcher, so I don't know.
He's
not much
baseball
of
stick.
He's not much of a stick.
Likely.
He was more of a throwing guy.
Okay, so he might be out. We never know.
He might be out.
At this
I don't
point,
know.
we don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. After the run that I had last night, I feel like I need to come back. So,
do you want to explain a bit of that run last night? Because I took Tasker out last night for a little 45-minute little sunset cruise, as I'll call it, and it was more of a sunset sleigh fest very quickly.
yeah. Well, the first thing that I have to complain about is, or the only thing I have to complain about, is that you got to get new maps, because there's actually a bay called Ritter Bay.
Oh, there is.
There is, which I don't know if you know about this or not.
Self-named.
Well,
No,
boat number 6 named, actually.
E-Train named it after I was in there a few times, and I've went throw there, throw there, throw there, throw there, throw there, and it was.
So in the 40 to 45 minutes that we were out and we worked this bay, I think Ritter called 7 of the 11 fish that I caught.
Nice.
So he was on it.
Yeah,
I mean, he knew what he was talking about, and he just knew throw it right there, and I'd probably miss the spot, which is not surprising. And then I would have to recast again, and I'd probably get hung up. And then on the third try, I would actually get it.
No, it wasn't that bad.
No, it was not that bad. But it was 7 smallmouth. One, the biggest was like 15 and a half.
Over 16.
16. Oh, that was the 16 and a quarter. And then, 4 northern that were between 22 and 25 inches. And it was all within 40 to 45 minutes. I mean, we just went in and just absolutely hammered them. And
My highlight wasn't even that.
that was a blast.
I threw a topwater and only myself, and I told him, Tasker, I'm going to put on a show here. So when you see or hear the slosh, immediately turn and look at me, because there's going to be a blow up, and there's going to be about 2 seconds, and then you're going to see the biggest hook set of your life.
I thought he was going to jump out of the boat, to be honest.
Not going to lie, Gary, my question, I said to Tasker, I said, I only hope this rod can handle the hook set.
Yes.
It did. It definitely handled it, but I got to have a sweet little blow up to
It was
to close
actually
it out.
it was quite a sight to see, because the way that he was casting from the back of the boat, throwing kind of out to the side of me, I could see the top water spinning and making all the
I was throwing a Berkeley Chapo or
noise right next to me, and there was 2 or 3 times that I actually just watched it.
I had
'cause I'm
2
like,
swipes that missed, and then I went right back in the third time and blow up.
And it was smash, and then Ritter set the hook. You know, he always does the 1-2 hook set, and I was thinking,
This boat's getting flipped over.
it's either he's going in, the rod is not going to hold up, or the fish is not going to have a lip anymore. And
one of the 3.
Yeah.
And everything was so good. Got the fish in the boat, and we were all set. So
it was fun, and I will say, like, these couple of days, I've always fished this in the spring. We always did this trip on the opener.
Different time of year, different bite. Yeah, and
water's high.
Yeah, very high water. And actually, you guys really didn't miss anything this spring, because the water was super high. I mean, 2.5, 3 feet higher than it is right now.
Wow.
And it really made spring fishing tough. the shoreline bite, especially when you've got water, that's way back up in the bush.
It looks like South Carolina to me.
Oh,
right.
gosh,
And it's
crazy.
like you're trying to cast into the trees, and it made it very difficult. So that part of the summer has been frustrating for a lot of our guests, just because, when we kept telling them, hey, the water's like really high, but we're talking record high. Until you actually get here and you see what we were dealing with, it was hard to envision. But I think probably the thing that I think the muskie bite was probably the most solid that not the last couple of days, that you guys have been here, but for sure the month of July, the first part of August, we had just a tremendous muskie bite going for several weeks on end, and it seemed because of the high water, they stayed closer on the shorelines. They didn't really move out to those shallow mid-lake reefs like they normally do. They can be a little harder to find. They stuck pretty close to the shorelines, and it kind of was easy pickings for a while. So we had a lot of fun with the muskies, for some time.
What would you say is the most common targeted, or the one fish that like people when they would come to Lake of the Woods that they're looking to catch? Is it muskies?
It's for us. It seems like it's seasonal. It's always different. It's in the springtime. It's always guys that want to hit walleyes. And then the month of June rolls around, and that's really a big bass month. So that's, again, when I talked about, we get guys from down south, from Florida, Texas, Tennessee. They're here specifically targeting smallmouth, and that's all they want to do day in and day out. And, and we've always got walleye fishermen here in camp. And then July is when the muskie guys more so roll in here, but they still are walleye fishermen in that they want to go out, they want to catch their shore lunch fish, and then they'll just kind of pick the peak time, whether they're with Steve or Ruben or whoever. You can get a feel for the day and like, hey, this is the time to try to go get a muskie like right now, or no, we should wait till later in the afternoon, or whatever the case might be. But then for the most part, people are doing a lot of fishing in the evenings also. So after the guided hours, we basically fish from 8 to 4 or whatever. And then after that, in the evenings after supper, a lot of our people are going to hop in a boat and just make a loop around the island or around the neighborhood, and they're going to cast in the evenings for muskies. Very popular in July. And then August is just more of a multi-species month, like kind of how we were doing yesterday, where we knew the fish were laying deep, that we weren't able to catch as many castings, so we're getting uptight on those small little nooks and crannies and points, and we're jigging those crayfish tubes, or we're fishing some sort of plastic off the bottom, and we're just snap jigging them, and we're up as shallow as 6, 7, 8 feet, and then that's where we're busting those those smallmouth. And then you've also got walleyes mixed in there in August, because once the lake reaches a certain temperature during the summer, like Ruben said today, he was catching fish in 38 feet of water. Well, we were catching fish at those same nice fish we're catching in 8 feet of water. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of all over in the column, and it's just a matter of what they're feeding on. Like the fish we were catching up shallow, they're feeding on the crayfish. Those fish out in the mud today that he was catching. Remember that big how the surface of the water was covered yesterday with that
all
bug
the bugs.
hatch?
Yeah, there was definitely a bug hatch. We kept wanting me to throw a hair jig for a while.
Right. So that's what those fish in that deeper water today, when we were cleaning the fish, they were just packed full of whatever sort of bugs those were that were hatching off the
lake
bottom.
Flies.
Yeah. So August is just one of those months where you can kind of do it all. And then September, we're going to go back to more walleye fishing, and then the muskies generally will start coming to life again. They're going to start packing on the feed bag, and then we start throwing a lot of stick baits and that kind of stuff, and we're fishing a lot of weed lines and whatnot. So
that's my language right there.
Right. Good time for muskie fishing in September, because you can do the jigathon for the walleyes basically any time of the day, but then if you want to take a break for an hour or two or whatever it might be and go throw a suic or whatever it is and try to catch a big fish, you can do that also.
All right. Now, speaking of catching fish,
yeah,
Eric Tasker's had a lot of questions all week long. He goes, why I don't understand why we don't do this. What is this? So this is your chance.
Well, let me just say that I'm not an expert guide service angler. Okay, so what I know, so you just talked about jigging, and what I have experienced this week is I think I know why I don't like ice fishing, because I don't like to sit there
and stare at an 8-inch hole all day.
But I also don't like to just sit there. I'd rather be casting something and doing more than just bouncing something off the bottom of the lake. Okay, so and this is different body of water, different way of fishing, all of that. So I think a couple years ago when I caught my really nice walleye in Lake Erie, what we did was the walleye harness or the crawler harness and all of that. Okay, so you can buy Canadian night crawlers, okay,
correct,
in America. I've not seen a worm since I got here.
All right.
Where are they at?
Where are they? Oh, for one, you cannot outfish the shiner minnow. It can't be done. And I think Ruben proved that today when those fish are so full of those bugs that you wouldn't think they would take one more bite, yet they will eat the shiner minnow. You mentioned pulling spinners. Right before you got here, basically I had spent the better part of 2 weeks pulling spinners on shorelines, pulling spinners out in the flats. And there, up here, it's like the fish are so aggressive that you can just use a plastic. I mean, I was fishing those.
I did not touch a single piece of live bait at all.
You were just being stubborn about that, though.
Well, by today it became it was.
I refused to do that.
Yeah, I was proving a point. I refused to touch live bait.
But pulling those spinners, we use those Zoom crawlers, and the fish will hit those basically the same as a night crawler. I'm fishing those white paddle tails a lot. I think it's more about the speed and the flash of the blade. And again, these fish up here just seem like they're super aggressive when you're pulling spinners. It's more of a reaction bite. But on the South Shore, on the Minnesota side, I mean, they're taking out boxes of crawlers every day. They fish this time of year. They're fishing with worms all the time.
And is that something that you will default to with deeper water? Because when we were doing, and I'm only comparing this to Lake Erie, is that we were fishing like 50 feet of water, and what we were doing was casting out and reeling through where they were kind of suspended in like 35 to 40 feet of water or 35 to 30 feet of water, where it was really easy to be able to just cast out and reel through where they were suspended.
Yeah.
So you're getting that reaction bite, but it's also very different fishing. So is that more of a deep water thing, or you guys are also doing that against weed beds, so it doesn't really
we're
matter?
doing it shallow also. I mean, to me, the spinner thing is and the reason I went to the spinners for a couple of weeks is because the fish started to scatter. And you can just fish so much faster, especially shallow. So when those fish are up on shorelines in August, because they're feeding on those crayfish, and even though the water's super warm, doesn't matter to the walleyes. Like, we talked about, you can catch them in 38 feet, you can catch them in 8 feet. So what you're able to do with that inline sinker and that crawler harness is you can just book right down those shorelines going like whatever, 1.2 to 1.5 miles an hour, and you're basically just trolling and hanging onto that pole, keeping that sinker off the bottom, and those fish are just smoking it. Whereas the stuff that we've fished the last couple of days, you had to be like really on the spot. Like we'd go in and it was like kind of flushing a covey of quail. You just move in there, and like I say, bonk them on the head because you're dropping it, and a lot of times they're catching that bait on the drop in that shallow water because you're just fishing a little point. But there's definitely like the spinner fishing. Also, I was doing deeper in the flats. And again, it's more of a speed thing. We always say speed kills when fishing slow. Speed kills. Speed up. Fish more water. Fish faster.
Which is my fishing style. Fishing faster, fishing hard, going after those aggressive fish, just causing the reactionary strikes. I love patterning too, and I will say, like, this trip being so much different than those previous, to find a pattern has been tough, because even when I find a pattern one day, it's not held up the next day, because we found the very first day that we were out, smallmouth were holding hard on the bulrushes. They were definitely holding on that stuff. Like, if you found the thick green smallmouth around that. Like it was, you knew you could find them there. You try and do that the second day, non-existent. They were stacked up on reefs. Yeah. They were also on reefs on first day, which I would have expected to be able to drop shot them on reefs because it's just the time of year of that. That's how you're going to fish smallmouth. That's how I always would. Today, going out on reefs, drop shotting, I didn't catch a single smallmouth.
No, today they
was
were
shocking to me.
Yeah, I don't. They, the fish move with frequency, and that's one of the challenges up here. And we talked a little bit about the guiding and the importance of having a guide. Is that because there's so much structure out here, 14,000 islands, a gazillion reefs, the fish move with great frequency. So you can almost guarantee that if you're catching walleyes one day in one area, most likely they're not going to be in that exact same spot the next day. They're going to be nearby, but probably not in the same exact spot. Now, normally the bass, just a funky year with this high water. You're right. Yeah. Normally this time of year they're on those shallow reefs, and you can go out there and you can pull cranks over the top, or you can drop shot them or whatever, and you're just going to catch a pile of them. But we'll hopefully see some of that as we get closer to September. It's interesting that the walleyes, have a tendency to leave the reefs in the fall, and the bass move on like thick, where you can, basically spot lock yourself on the top of a rock pile and just sit there and bomb them with jigs or however you want to catch them.
Just going to use that reef to push bait up on top and just feed up and gorge before they hit the deep waters for winter and just, kind of lay low.
Yeah. So it's just a little bit different bite right now, in that every day you kind of start from scratch, and you have to try to figure out where they want to be today.
Yeah, I think that one of the, you talked about just like what's the experience been like and all that. What I will say is, if you want to be a better angler, fish with really good anglers. Because Gary and I were on the same side of the boat for the entire day yesterday, and I just kept watching what you were doing and just the different action that you had on your jig that you were putting, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing differently than what you're doing, but you were catching all the fish and I was not. And
it's the juice.
Well, you know what? It's the varsity team versus the JV is what it was. And the first thing that he said to me was, I don't think you want to be that close to me. So if you want to go toe-to-toe, we can go toe-to-toe. So I moved to the back of the boat, and then Gary still caught all the fish. But what I will say about that is just fishing the water and going out and seeing how everybody's doing it and being able to fish next to you two guys for the majority of the week has been really cool for me, because I'm by no means like a fanatic about fishing. I love fishing. I love going out and fishing, and I love going out and doing it and experiencing it. But I've been very open about the fact that, I don't know, I never fished a chatterbait until this year, and all of a sudden you and I go out on a lake and go kayak fishing.
I'm like, this is the most versatile bait ever. You need to throw a chatterbait. If you throw nothing, throw a chatterbait.
And what I have always thought was, I'm not going to use something, and I'm not going to spend the money on it until I see it actually work. So you were using an amputee all day. Well, you didn't even need the crawfish legs on the plastic bait, and it was still working.
And I find myself using more and more of these bass fishing plastics. It's for walleyes. They work.
They do.
Yeah.
And which makes sense when, we have this huge crayfish population in Lake of the Woods, and a lot of times the walleyes are feeding on them, that you should be using a bait that...
Look at the big walleye that I caught yesterday.
Yeah.
What was I using? I was using a Z-Man Canada craw, one of their Elastec giant craws. It's the whole thing is like the claws float, so I set it down on a big jig. Usually I'd do a Texas rig, but I just put a jig head through it, and it sits in the bottom, and the claws float up and just look like a crawfish on the bottom that's posing at something.
Yeah.
Any fish is going to crush that.
Yeah.
And if walleyes are eating crawfish, they're going to eat that.
And you're just, part of it when I'm out there, as often as I get a chance to, you just like messing around with different things. And it's like, let's put this on, see what happens. See if I can get a fish to eat it. See what happens. Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I just caught one on that. So...
Well, we're 30 seconds into our fishing trip, and GM on low has already got a muskie in the boat. So I knew we were going to be in for a good day.
Better than lucky than good.
That's right.
I've often wondered about those Texas rigs, like when we're fishing those crayfish, if we should be Texas rigging them with a longer hook, or if we get too many hook snags and that snaggy stuff. What do you think?
I thought the same thing, and I almost did it, but that was kind of my thought too. Is because if when they're short striking, just grabbing on the claws maybe. But I almost wonder, would it be too bulky by going this bigger hooks, or because there's so many rocks down there, does having that little bit of extra hook like sticking out of it give you a little something more to get hung up? And that was what held me back on it.
I'll have to give it a try and see what happens.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pin a Texas rig and see. But I think doing craws, that could work just as good as a jig head.
I'm even thinking about some lizards for the fall. I'm thinking about Texas rigging with like a 5-inch lizard, and just anchor up, because normally we're just fishing in the mud.
There's salamanders in this lake. I mean, I'm sure they're eating them.
Just fan casting and just dragging them back and see if the walleyes will hit them.
The X-Zone Slammer was my drop shot bait of choice the first day. Today, well, actually the last 2 days, was the X-Zone Hot Shot Minnow, which is their new, and again, it's a neutrally buoyant. I was setting it like 6 inches off the bottom, and it just sits there, and it's just slowly bouncing on the bottom, and that's what was probably my MVP bait, is both that Slammer and the Hot Shot Minnow. I did so much drop shot in the last 2 days, which is way more than I typically do. Tasker, by the way, he's fallen in love with the drop shot. He's fished it a few times.
Except for out here, what is tough about that is, I mean, you had to have lost an entire bag and a half of drop shot weights.
I lost 6 drop shot weights
because they keep getting pinched
up.
No,
see, that's not bad. 3 days fishing.
They keep getting pinched up, but I mean, fortunately, they were tied the right way so that they just break
The reason I fish them is if you get hung up, the weight pops off.
You don't lose the entire setup.
Putting the weight on and back in the water.
That's the only thing that's hard about that out here, is that it's just there's so many cracks and crevices that it makes it a little more tough than, like, when we were out, you're like, oh yeah, there's fish below me, I'm going to just use a drop shot here, and maybe 12 seconds later
he was in his kayak and joined me in my kayak, so we went side by side one day, Gary, and I video game fished. We're kind of paddling across the lake, and I look down and I go, oh, there's fish right here. I go plop, boonk, and pull it right up. Down imaging's a great thing.
15 seconds and there was a fish in the boat.
Yeah. If they're below the boat, drop something down for them.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game.
This guide Ruben would say, where'd you catch it?
Under the boat.
Under the boat.
Under the boat.
All right, so talking about different sayings, okay? So I've learned a lot from you in the last couple of days here, Gary. So we've talked about 2 of them already. Bop them on the head. That's good for jigging, right? Just drop it right there. They're going to eat it. You hit them in the head, they're going to be mad. So they're going to eat it. Talking about the varsity squad, I was a little shook when I had the bait caster put in my hand, and I just figured I'm going to bird's nest this in the first 30 minutes of the day. You said, well, this is the varsity squad today.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the bait caster, even when you're jigging, because when you're on so much structure, I fish with the bail open, and I just have my thumb on the spool. So that way, when you're constantly changing depths, going up, going down, whatever, you can stay right with it.
Yep.
And what happens with the spinning reels is you open that bail, the jig just free falls right to the bottom, and a lot of times you get hung up. So that's why I prefer to try to get people converted over to a bait caster, and it seems like once they get used to it, then they're like, oh, okay, now I know why this is easier than, when you're on structure. If you're fishing in the mud, or if you're just anchored and vertical jigging, whatever, you can use anything. But when you're moving and fishing all that structure and the reefs and the shorelines, it's just nice to have a feel for where your jig's at all the time without having to open that bail and just free fall it to the bottom.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern with that is always getting the break right. And I know you can just easily get that set. So where you put the rod out straight in front of you, make sure that it drops in like a normal speed, and it'll make sure that it'll break correctly. I was so concerned about adjusting that. When you said, I don't think that's right, why don't I just fix this for you? I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to end well. And it ended up being fine. I think there was only one time where I had an issue with it, but I can definitely see that, because even today, Ritter, you said a couple times, I would so much rather jig with a bait caster because there's so much more feel for it. Mm-hmm. And I immediately thought to myself, absolutely not. I would just rather use my spinning rod.
Yeah. I think it just depends on what you get used to. I've just never been a big spinning rod guy myself. I just like to hold that pole right in my hand.
Drop shotting, flipping Ned worms, and maybe some shaky heads is about what I love a spinning reel for. Other than that, I'm a bait caster for everything. If I'm casting anything, I'm bait casting. Or if I'm straight jigging, bait caster.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the Chapo versus the Chopper.
Chapo.
Oh yeah, baby. We were lucky to get to 10 a.m. without a chopper. But if we had a Chapo in the water before 10 a.m.,
you were catching fish.
Yeah, that was one distinct difference. That was good. I love that. Well, I don't think we need to expand on that. One is a bait, one is a chew. Yeah.
Okay? Yep. Well said.
Don't botch the net job. We had a couple of those today where Ritter, I think, panic. Was like, oh, Brad's got a really nice fish on. I'm gonna net this fish for Brad because we don't want to mess this up. And there was one time where Ritter, I think, used the front of the net and like hit it in the head to kill it so that it would just float to the top. It was
Classic.
perfect.
Right.
So I just, after that, somebody said, don't botch the net job, and I love that because I thought, well,
it was a straight spear job, and the walleye took like a turn right at the end, and I just had to harpoon.
Right in the head. Yeah, so no pliers needed. It was already a little
went right in the net.
Little unconscious. And then I think my favorite of the day was when Gary had a fish almost to the boat. I think you saw it and you said, "Oh, it's catch and release." So I didn't bring it into the boat. I saw it, it got off the hook. And then put it right back in. That's catch and release.
That's
perfect.
What it is.
I love that.
Would have had to let it go anyway.
Would have had to let it go anyway. We're already at our limit.
I missed that fish twice, and then it came back for the third time. So which is the other beautiful part about fishing plastics, is you just immediately drop it right back down to them, especially with the bass, even the walleyes. I mean, they just keep rattling that thing until you finally get a hook in them.
So as we wrap up here this week, again, from Ballards Black Island in Canada, we've been fishing last week. You had asked before we started recording the show, Gary, who put that pike in the box today?
There were a couple pike in the boxes today.
I will confirm that, well, in our box from our boat, I will confirm, yes, I put that pike in the box. And I felt it was necessary only because that pike saw more air than a skateboarder at the X Games crashing after one of my baits.
I'm sure it did.
Oh, he's got video of it. So
right.
It's even
and then
better.
on the second cast, it took it, and I thought, okay, I feel that this just needs to.
Yeah, it wants to find a new home.
It did not want to stay in the water.
The tournament's over for that fish.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, he was done.
I caught a fish like that one time last summer. A buddy of mine, we were dragging spinners, and he had somebody lose a pole out of the boat when this guy throws a walleye out of the boat over the side of the boat. Walleye gets snagged on the spinner harness. Pole goes flying out into the lake.
Oh, no.
2 days later, I'm fishing like within a quarter of a mile of where they were when this happened. And this guy sets the hook. He's like, oh, this is weird. I got something on my line. I don't know what it is. And he reels it up. His hook had perfectly gone through the eyelet of the tip of the rod that my buddy had lost.
Oh, my gosh.
Reels it up.
No way.
I grabbed the rod. Reel it up. It's still got like this 18-inch walleye with probably 30 feet of line out. I'm like, what are the odds?
Wow.
That fish needed to die.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, we clonked him on the head and threw him in the box.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, that story tops even the one that I remember you getting hold of me after it happened. Was it like the first year up here when I'd had that like 19-inch smallmouth on that the muskie took, and I was hanging. The muskie would not let go, and I'm dragging around a muskie to the point where like we're panicking of like we're gonna net both these together. And just before Gary can get the net in, the muskie lets go of the bass. The bass swims up, is alive. I caught it, released it, and it was about a week later you caught the same bass in the same spot.
Mauled. It was amazing that thing was still alive. It was. It was unbelievable. It was a good story, too, because, like I say, a week later, somebody to catch the same fish that Ritter just caught, and I thought, there's no way this fish is going to live.
Yeah.
And here it was, still making it. So
and
a lot of interesting things happen. You know, there's so many things that happen out here when you're out there a lot every day. It's like weird stuff happens. You just laugh, and it's like, how did that just happen?
I feel stories like that completely encompass just the general everything about this area and the people that work and live in and around Lake of the Woods. It's
like the rock that Brad caught yesterday. Oh, wait a minute. That's not a rock.
Yeah.
That's a fish.
Or the rock that got moved for the first time and everything underneath
Since
it.
the Ice Age.
Yeah.
Since the Ice Age.
Think about that.
I was hoping some alien or something was going to come out of there. And no.
The scenery here in, as they call it, Sunset Country in Ontario, Canada, is unlike anything you've ever seen in the world. I was glad, by the way, Gary, on the way back through, we made a pass through Painted Rock, and I got to like slow down and stop so these guys could take a look and see hieroglyphics
super cool,
that were put there by natives. I don't know how many hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, they say about 800 years ago, and they actually use the. They say that they use the marrow out of lake sturgeon to do the painting, and that's why it's lasted so long through all these hundreds of years.
It's just absolutely really cool stuff. There's amazing things you're going to find here, not just fish, but just in the scenery. Again, if you've ever thought about how to bucket list thing of fishing in Canada, seriously, get a hold of Gary, get a hold of Ballards Black Island, book your trip for next year. Hopefully we can do this trip again next year and have you come along with us and be a part of this whole camaraderie and fun group. But I think we got to wrap it here for this week because we're going to go run out and catch some more fish here yet.
I think so too. Yeah. The one thing that I will say is, a couple days is plenty. The difference between Ritter and I is that Ritter could do this for a month straight, and I think 3 or 4 days was perfect for me, where it was enough where even at nighttime I was like, you know what, let's go back out. Let's just fish for like another hour. Let's go out and get after it. And I kind of felt like I wanted to take advantage of all of the time that we had up here. And it's great because you can book for, varying lengths of stays. Mm-hmm. So if you are just a couple days at a time, or if you want to do a week-long trip, there's different options. And
yeah, I'd say it's about half and half. Most of the people, it's probably 50-50, where it seems like people either stay and fish 3 days or they'll stay and fish for a week. So that's pretty typical.
That's just it. I love to fish, but I don't love to fish. So 3 full days of fishing was perfect for me, but if you're somebody who really, really wants to get after it and spend a bunch of different times in a lot of different spots, a week long is probably still not long enough.
Yeah, well, we'll have more stories, I'm sure, that'll come out throughout the next coming weeks, especially as we start leading to our bow season, which I know Tasker's getting super excited about coming up here real soon. We still got to talk to our boy John Resnick, who was just at Clams Pro Day, and all the new ice fishing gear that Clams got coming out. He was super excited and sending us messages just the other day as he was leaving that. So we'll have John on to talk more about that next coming week. So until next time, we'll catch you on the next one. This is Tailgate Talk.